it was just the point of, yo, you got to do this right. And in true Kobe fashion, he went out with 61 points, in his final game. I don't think there will ever be anyone close to Kobe Bryant, nor should there. Everybody, I'm big on everyone making their own, lane in life. But this is a guy who came into the league at 18 years old and did it his way. Basically did it his way. In a city who expects a lot out of you. And when I say a lot, I mean championships. People in LA, they don't go to Lakers games because, they just want to have something to do. No, it's a lot to do in LA. And if you're not winning, they will not go to the games. And Kobe came in there along with Shaq and some other guys. I'm not saying he did it by himself, but he came in there and he brought that franchise back to what people used to remember the Lakers being. And for me, if the man wore 3 numbers, retire him. But 2 numbers, I don't have a problem. And at the end of the day, he done them a pretty solid favor. If you haven't heard, on that night, just that night, that they retired his jersey, they said $824,000 in merchandise for a retirement? Who does that? Who does that? So Kobe Bryant, now it's official. Now everything is, said and done. And at this point, Kobe will be in the Hall of Fame before we know it. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, we'll talk about that a little bit later in the show. But he will be there sooner than later, literally. And we'll get into that. But Kobe Bryant, retirement, beautiful thing. Even though I couldn't stand him because he used to kill my Pistons, and everything. But you got to respect the man's game. He was a straight assassin. So it is what it is. Now I'm going to move over. I'm going to stay in the Western Conference as far as like referring to a team. The Oklahoma City Thunder. Now, the Oklahoma City Thunder, OKC, is basically not where they need to be. They are not where they should be, at this point. You got Russ, the defending, the reigning MVP of the league. You got Melo and you got PG-13, Paul George, on this team. And they're not cutting the mustard, if you will, is a saying that the old folks say, not cutting the mustard. So basically, they're not winning games like they're supposed to. At this point, you would think they would be more in sync, but it's been said that, you got 3 ball dominant players and that's not going to work because everybody can't play, the same role, which is true. I agree with that. But they are basically they're at 500 at this point. They're 15-15 and they're 7th in the Western Conference. Now, this is a cause for a little bit of alarm because Russ, without the other 2, had them basically in the same position. They made the playoffs without PG-13, Paul George, and Carmelo. So it's like, what are we getting out of this? What are we doing? And now it's rumored that, maybe Paul George might get traded because Paul George is he's going to be done at the end as far as like his contract. He hasn't been signed to a new contract at all. And it's rumored that maybe OKC get rid of him and get someone in there before he leaves. I don't believe that for one moment. I don't think that the Thunder is really ready to get rid of Paul George like that. And here's why. I'll explain why. One, because the biggest thing is you look like some fools. You look like some fools. You gave up Oladipo. And you know what? The one thing about Oladipo is that his game suffered playing with Russ. I think that was obvious. I think we knew that. Because for what he did, he had to sacrifice his game for Russ. So now he's in Indiana, balling, doing an excellent job. So it may look like, oh man, you gave up, Oladipo, and you could have just kept him. No, it's because they're still having the same problem, But they're not going to trade Paul George because they would look like fools. I said that. The other reason they're not going to trade Paul George, you're 30 games into the season. This team has been put together, and let me remember, Steven Adams has been out, which is he's supposed to play tonight, but this team is only 30 games into the season. There's 82 games and they're the playoffs. So obviously they're in a little bit of a pickle at this point, being in seventh, but there's a lot of basketball to be played. You still got 52 games. And here's the other thing, it's really what you do after All-Star. So if they can stay in contention, stay just in the realm of the playoff after All-Star weekend, that's where you start seeing teams other than your Clevelands and your Golden States and all this stuff. That's where you start seeing them take off. That's where you see them start really making a push, for this run into the playoffs. So they still got time. They got about a month and a half, to still get it together. And you want to have that together before the playoffs start. So I do think they're going to make the playoffs. Some people say about Melo coming off the bench. I don't know about that. But I think really maybe what they should do, out of the three of them, I would say Russ is probably the best passer. He is the best passer. You got to say, this is Russ' team. It's not us three or anything like that. This is Russ' team. Once when you come to that realization that this is Russ's team and we're going to roll how he want us to roll, that's where the game is going to start coming easier and the W's are going to follow. All you got to do is look around. LeBron went to Miami. It's LeBron's team. D-Wade was 1B. You can't have 3 1As. LeBron leaves, he goes back to Cleveland. Kyrie was the man there. LeBron gets there. Now Kyrie is a 1B. You got it. You got to understand. There's always an exception to the rule. And it's still maybe not. When KD went to Golden State, he's not necessary. I still think people feel that Curry is the man, and I do too. But the way the Warriors play basketball and the way that organization is set up, it's just an exception. That's an exception to the rule, But I really think it's Russ' team. I think they know that, but it's just like you got to go out there and play like it's Russ' team. Let him facilitate. But now here's the thing: Russ got to be smart though to know who he has on his team now, though. If you got Paul George running the wing, that's not the same as Oladipo running the wing. No disrespect to Oladipo. And I'm not trying to compare them like people were, Paul George was trying to say people were trying to compare him. No, I'm just saying it's different. You got to utilize those players. But I think it runs through Russ. So Paul George is not getting traded. They don't want to look like any fools. They're still early into the season. And he's too valuable because you're not going to get back what you traded or want for him at this point, because he's going to have to do a sign and trade. Like, he's going to have to pick the team that he wants to go to and already have a contract in place or some type of agreement for him to go somewhere else. No one's going to rent him for, 4 months at this point before the playoffs start, because it depends on where you're going. You don't know if they make the playoffs. You would think they would, but it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense to give up on on what you're trying to do with this team. None whatsoever. So, Busa, that's out there, that's an OKC fan, and any other Thunder fans, don't worry about it. He's not going anywhere. He'll be there for the entire year. They cannot afford to send this man off to get back potato chips. That's all I'm saying. And I'm going to leave that right there. Okay? So what I think we'll do right now, I think we'll take a quick break, and then we'll come back, and then we'll get into a little bit of NFL news. People is selling stuff, and I ain't talking about on eBay. And the NFL Pro Bowl selection was put out. So we'll talk about that a little bit too. So we'll be back in just a moment. You listen to the Wait a Minute Show with your man, Jelani, J.B. Bodie, and Lopan. He just went to the bathroom, so he'll be back by the time we get back from these breaks.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I am Vince Wright, the sports governor, and you know me from the Sports Done Right show. But when I'm not doing Sports Done Right, I'm in the executive mansion chilling with the Wait a Minute show. That's right, Jelani, Lopan, indeed. Keep it tuned here, y'all. The Wait a Minute show. My name is Vince Wright, and I approve this message.
Hey, what's up, sports fans? You're looking for a different type of sports talk show, something you haven't heard before? You gotta check out the BS3 Sports Show every other Saturday on 2 Live Stews Radio, 1 p.m. Central Time, 2 p.m. Eastern. Sports talk at its finest. Always have great guests, playing some good hip-hop. You don't want to miss it. Make sure to tune in to the BS3 Sports Show every other Saturday at 1 p.m. Central Time, 2 p.m. Eastern.
Yo, this is your boy Keith C from the
Kicking It With Keith C show.
When I want to jam, I'm jamming with Queen Josie and DJ New as they're kicking those vibes.
Don't be a crook who steals. Buy what you need at DougieDeals.com.
We don't take orders from super fools. We give them.
Give it to you.
Any and all resistance will crumble. Nonsense. There's never been a threat couldn't handle. It is the purpose of the to align our infamous forces against the powers of good and defeat them, leaving us, the rulers of the world.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is your man, Jelani J.B. Bodie, and this is...
It's the Wait a Minute show.
And Lopan is here as well.
Indeed.
Yes, Lopan, we know. And before the break, we were talking about Pro Bowl selection. So the Pro Bowl has basically been announced, the players or the people that got selected, for the Pro Bowl. And as usual, there are going to be some snubs and all that good stuff. But, looking at the list, a lot of these things are pretty good. And let's be honest, we really only pay attention to the skill set positions. No disrespect to, the people that's on the line or anything like that or on special teams. But, that's basically what gets the people talking, So AFC, their Pro Bowl roster looks like for wide receivers, Antonio Brown, of course, no surprise there. DeAndre Hopkins, AJ Green, and Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen, man, he had a little bit of up and down.